Hey, what's going on? So, there's a lot of talk right now happening in the news and information sources. People are posting on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, all these different things about the NAR, this the National Association of Realtors settlement. Now, I'll say up front that there's a lot to talk about with this. I think I'm gonna make probably a 3 or 4 part um, kind of series about different issues or different perspectives on this issue. Just so you understand, NAR has settled a lawsuit in which they're still denying any wrongdoing, but they're paying a substantial amount of money to the people that sued them, basically. With that, there are going to be some changes. Part of that settlement is some changes in the way that we operate as realtors. So, for one, compensation offers will be moved off the MLS, and then written agreements for buyers, for MLS participants, for acting buyers. Like, we're having to actually, everybody is going to have to, if you're working with a buyer, you have to have a buyer's agreement, which I'll talk about another time. The news, the circulation of information right now is basically saying, hey, things are going to change. 5 to 6% commissions could be going away, saving tens of thousands of dollars for sellers. And I want to help provide. Now, there's a lot of information. There's some good information out there as well, kind of rebutting some of this. The information about the lawsuit is true, but as far as the response to this and what it means for you in the future as a seller or a buyer or somebody just interested, if you're an agent, all these things are changing. And so more and more thoughts are getting poured into this. I want to give you my initial thoughts and what I see. And I'm going to start with the sellers, because I think it directly affects the sellers first, because the lawsuit was brought by people that were selling homes. Now, their lawsuit was against a specific area and what they suspected of colluding, some collusion being done by brokerages in a particular area. I want to get a couple things, one thing clear up front. You have always, and this is one of the first things that was taught to me as an agent, you have always had the opportunity to negotiate. As a matter of fact, the words that were said to me in my online course is the one thing to realize in real estate is that everything is negotiable, right? That's everything is negotiable. From my perspective as an agent, from yours as a seller, from the buyer's perspective, everything is negotiable. With that, you've always had the right to negotiate. You can negotiate how much you pay an agent. You can negotiate how long the house is on the market, what you want for the house. You can put the house on the market for whatever you like. I also have a right to negotiate what I would like to be paid for my services. I have the right to negotiate. If you ask me for something astronomical and I don't believe that's something that I can do, I have the right to walk away. You have the right to walk away. You have the right, and I encourage you, as anybody that I've ever worked with, I encourage you to go and speak with multiple agents, multiple lenders, shop around, get all your information, because what I offer may be different from what somebody else offers, and you may decide to go that route. I would rather you have a full understanding, as full of understanding as possible, so that you can make a great decision. I believe that people generally make great decisions when they have great information. But and I'll come back to that point later. Here's a couple things that I think you should consider as a seller, as you're making decisions. I know there are people that are already calling saying, man, do I have to pay do I have to pay the buyer's agent? Will it save me money? The thought of saving money in this climate is, I understand. Anytime, hey, we save some money, it's important. So I do understand. I think you need to consider some of the other factors that may be involved in this. Agents haven't done a good job in explaining the things that are on the listing agreement. Sometimes there is a lot of information, especially if you're new, you kind of getting your footing under you. It's kind of hard to understand. I really appreciate one of the agents that I knew from high school when I first started. She told me, she said, hey, study contracts. Study contracts when you first get in, because you need to be able to explain. We're kind of coming to a reckoning right now, and I'll talk about that probably in the third part of this series. So I apologize if you were not explained too well on behalf of everybody. It may have been negligence. It may have just been a little bit of ignorance, which is not an excuse. The other thing, the list anytime I list a house for somebody, you're going to get a couple of things. You're at least going to get a comparative market analysis to tell you, what houses have been selling for in your area, give you my opinion of market value, and you're also going to receive a net sheet. So that is what I expect for you to receive at a particular price. All the fees that we know of, any known fees up front, those will all be listed. If there are other things like liens I don't have any information about, or something else that pops up later on that I'm just unaware of at the time of listing, those of course won't be on there. But anything that I know of, any fees, I tell you up front. It'll include title policies and escrow fees and guarantee fees, all these different little small things that you get with transferring a home. And then it'll also have my commission on there. Now on the listing agreement, right? So there's an agreement that happens between you as a seller and my brokerage with me as an agent of the brokerage. On that you will see, we will agree to a listing price, and we'll agree to an amount that you will pay me, whether that be a flat fee or a percentage of the sales price. Typically, a lot of people come to you that, hey man, your sales price is, your commission is 6%. Some people do have a set amount that they are charging, 6%. I'm not doing anything less than 6%. And this is probably a good place to explain, hey, this is why I charge 6%, because I have to do X, Y, Z, that you may not be aware of. I shield you from some of the work that it requires to get your home sold. Some people will do 5%. There's 4%. There are even people out there that will just put your house on the market for 1%. These options are always out there. They've always been out there. They're cut rate for a reason, and you should consider that. But either way, that whatever amount that you agree to pay me is in the listing agreement. Also in the listing agreement is however much the cooperating buyer's agent will be paid as well. You could put 0 there. Most of the times, if you pay me 5 or 6%, I am going to turn around and I'm going to partner with another agent in the area. I'm going to advertise this amount to other agents to say, hey, help me, bring your buyers. You vetted your buyers. I know you want the best for hopefully you want the best for your buyer, in so much that you will help them to get to a closing for a house that they will love to call home. That's my trade line. But with that, so I market your home out. All the homes that are available for sale they come to a particular market, and just like the farmers market, people come from the outside that are looking to buy, and they have agents, and they come in, and the agent is paid. I split the payment with a cooperating broker to have representation for the other side. Now, the argument is, hey, you are then at the same time, I'm paying my competition. In all actuality, you're not paying your competition. This is somebody that is cooperating with you to receive a goal, which is to make money on your house or sell your house. Saving money. Let me finish. If you decided to put 0 there, you could. I think, and I'm going to talk about in a minute, how that may burden another buyer and potentially be a loss for you. Now, you've been hearing a lot about, hey, you can save tens of thousands of dollars. Saving money is not a guarantee. Okay, saving money isn't a guarantee. Right now, we have a correcting market. We have interest rates that are really high and putting a financial strain on buyers. Buyers aren't able to afford the houses, even if they want to purchase it. They just can't afford it. So what happened in the price? We've seen more price drops in the last 5 months than we've seen in 3 or 4 years. So money is already coming down. On top of that, we've got strapped buyers. Buyers are, with inflation and everything, people don't have as much money to spend. Now they've got down payment and closing costs that they're having to bring in. If you add on top of that, buyers are now have the potential to be expected to pay me as their agent as well. So you got you got thousands of dollars in down payment, you got thousands of dollars in closing costs, and you got thousands of dollars, even if it is just $1,000 or $500 or whatever it may be. It's more money that I will be expected to, as a buyer, I'll be expected to pay at closing. Naturally, where are they going to save the money, right? If I've got a whole bunch to pay for closing costs and down payment just to get into the house, then I've got to add an agent. Where's the money going to come from? They're going to be saying, hey, I need to save money too. The same way you're wanting to save money as a seller, I want to save money too. So they're going to say, hey, it's going to, more than likely, in my opinion, let me say this is my opinion, and something to just watch. I may be wrong. Who knows? I think that will come off the prices even more. So now you've got the interest rates you're fighting against as a seller. You're fighting against also the high prices, and then you're fighting against inflation, strapped buyer with these strapped buyers. All of that spells more potential money either off the selling price or in closing costs, right? That is money. Any concessions that you give, that's money that you're not making, right? So I think that all spells for potential to lose money for you as a seller. Also, you now on the listing agreement or in the net sheet, you'll see money from the seller, money going to the seller's agent, money going to the buyer's agent. You are, in a way, you are paying the buyer's agent. Yes, well, the money that you give is paying the buyer's agent. In a way, you're not paying the buyer's agent. In a way, I'm paying the buyer's agent. As your selling or listing agent, I'm splitting my fee that you agreed to pay my brokerage, and I'm splitting that with somebody else. And then here's that's kind of that may be more of a tomato type thing, but even more so, that what you see on the net sheet is not money that you have in hand, right? In a way, really, the buyers are paying their own agent because it's factored into the amount that you're asking for. It's factored into the sales price. It's factored into the money that you don't have already. So upon closing, this amount that you decided that you agreed to pay, I split that with the buyer's agent. The buyer funds the ability to even be able to pay that, right? So yes, you technically are the one that's paying, but in a way, we also are receiving. It's a partnership all the way around, from buyer to seller, seller's agents to buyer's agent. All of us work together in order to get a goal accomplished. And then another thing, buyers may decide moving forward to forego getting an agent. I want to raise up a huge caution flag right here, and there's a couple of reasons why. I even took some notes on this video. No one will be representing them. All right, so no one with their best interest in mind. The one thing when I started as an agent, the one thing that I wanted to do was to give, as I was taught, the very first rule that I was given in real estate school was that I'm supposed to bring clarity to the situation. Clarity on the contract, clarity on the process of getting in and out of homes, clarity on what a pre-approval letter was, how to go about the process of buying a house. No one is there for the buyer at this point. And I can tell you, nobody knows the process of buying a house. If you go back and look at my story, you kind of know how I got into this. I got into this simply because I did not know how to buy a house, and I went and bought a house, and I bumped my head along the way, and I stubbed my toe, and I actually should have made the whole process a lot easier, right? Now you got nobody there to represent their interest. That's in the beginning of the process, that's in getting approved, that's in showing, that's in closing, that's in contract negotiation for fair contract negotiation. There are a lot of different facets where this buyer no longer has representation. You may think, well, that's on them. They need to do whatever they need to do in order to and that's a fair thought. You have the right to think that. But I hope you will think about the consequences. Buyers, and this is no shade to any buyer, this is just the reality. Buyers are easily spooked. This is a big, humongous, monumental decision that I'm having to make. These are hundreds of thousands of dollars that I think most home purchases are purchased with a loan. I want to know what that number is, but most probably are bought with a loan. I don't have this money, so I have to make a very wise as wise as knowledgeable decision that I can. If something doesn't feel right in a moment, it may be okay, but if something doesn't feel right, I'm out the door. I'd rather leave in the option period to get my money back, or I'd rather lose a couple $1,000s instead of being hundreds of $1,000s in debt. Even if we're in the middle of closing, I'm just gonna walk away because this doesn't feel right. I don't know what to do here. Boom. And yes, you may say, oh well, that's their fault. But think about what happens if your house comes off the market, goes in the contract, comes back on the market. If you as a buyer, if you were a buyer and you saw this house, the first thing you're going to think is, what's wrong with the house? You're not going to think, what's wrong with the buyer? Because if the house was really that great, then the buyer would stay there and purchase it. Who decides to pay for something that is not really good, right? So other buyers are going to become more timid if your house comes back on the market. And you may not do anything wrong. You may have done everything right, but the buyer is easily spooked, or they request something that is not feasible because they have nobody to guide them or to help them. And you may say, well, I'll turn to my agent and ask them, your listing agent is not there to give the buyers advice. I don't advise buyers, if I'm the listing agent, unless I'm their agent as well. And then in the dual agency, as some people will refer to it, or intermediary role, I can't advise the buyer. I'm actually just a middleman. I may be able to explain the contract to the buyer, but I can't give them any advice on what to do after that. That spells potential trouble for you. If the one thing I never want a house to do is to come back on the market after it's been under contract. That's probably the most damaging thing. Another thing is time wasted. You could lose a lot of time. What if you spend 35 to 40 days off the market, you get close to closing, and the buyer walks away because it's something that they don't understand, right? And nobody's there to explain it to them correctly. Nobody to talk them off the ledge. Nobody has created the correct expectations for them up front. You've lost time. You're potentially probably going to lose money. All those things are not working in your favor. There are check marks along the way through the closing. So, for instance, in the option period, for one, you need to know when it starts, when it ends. You have inspections and things like that. It's an inspector's job to find as many flaws in the house as possible, so that the buyer has as clear a picture as possible of this home that they're purchasing. I can tell you that I have to, with every buyer, create an expectation up front. Don't get spooked by this 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 page long report that you're about to receive. Don't get spooked by it. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out what things are your non-negotiables, what things are common. Let me give more clarity about what it is that you're seeing on here. Let me connect you with other professionals that can give you guidance in this. A buyer does not know how to do that on their own. So I help you a ton. As a buyer's agent, I actually help you a lot as a seller. You don't have many things to do in the closing process. The buyer has a ton of things to do. It's actually the easy part is the house hunting. That's the easy part. The difficult part comes when you get to closing, and now you've got all these deadlines that you got to get your inspections done. The appraisal has to get ordered. What happens if the survey has an issue? What happens if the appraisal has an issue? There are a myriad of issues that could arise during the closing. Or what happens if there's an issue with the title? There's a myriad of issues that could happen during the closing period where the buyer has nobody with expertise to guide them because they decided to forego because they couldn't pay all of their closing costs, the down payment, and another agent, right? All those things. Then you also don't have any layer of protection in several different areas. So during showings, maybe your listing agent will open the house for them, give them all the highlights. That's great. As a listing agent myself, I know that I can't be there for every showing. That's why the lock boxes are there. And maybe I can be there for every showing, but it's going to have to work around my schedule because I have life. I have other people that I'm representing. And you may say, well, I'll get another agent. It's going to be really difficult to find somebody that can be there all the time for your house, especially if it's a nice one and you've got a lot of people coming in to take a look at it. I've done it before, and it is not an easy thing to do. And so I'm not saying that somebody would do something wrong, but something may slip through the cracks. Maybe a buyer slips through the cracks because they can't be there at the time that the selling agent, your agent, can't be there at the time that they need them. Or what if you have to be there for those showings, and you don't have the time, and you're taking time out of your schedule and things like that. These are just more issues for you. And then also too, what if you say, hey, I'm going to give you the code. Give the buyers a code. Like, you don't want people coming in and out of your house with nobody there to watch over them. I provide a layer of protection for you. Not that I can stop buyers from doing any and everything, but I'm walking buyers through your house if I'm showing it, so that they can. So for one, I almost keep an eye on them and help guide them. And then I provide a witness if something goes wrong. If there's something that goes wrong in the house, I'm potentially on the hook for that. I provide you a layer of protection, or I can, direct you to exactly what happened. If there was an issue with the house, not necessarily something that the buyer did wrong. It's not just their word against yours. It's a professional's word also, who has some skin in the game. All these different things. Then you also don't have a layer of protection from the concern of conspiracy against the buyer. Like, this is something that I think that we should also take into consideration. Possible. I'm not an attorney. Of course, you want to take legal advice from an attorney, but I can see a way where, hey, this agent that you have, this listing agent who is supposed to get you as much money as possible, right? That is a known. My job is to help you have a safe transaction and get you as much money as possible for your home. You want as much money as you can get for your home. That is a reason for somebody to do something to collude or conspire against another party. Now, buyers are sitting here. They say something happens with the house after they move out. After they move in, or they feel like they've been treated unfairly in the closing process, and now all of a sudden they don't want to release the earnest money to you, or there's an issue, you have to go to court about it, simply because they didn't have the correct expectation. They didn't have anybody to represent them. They didn't have anybody to explain in the process, and underneath all of that, there's always going to be the concern that these people are trying to take advantage of me. It's just a natural thing. Here, this person wants all this money that they can get. They want as much money as they can get. There's going to be a natural and automatic fear that this person is trying to take advantage of me. I provide as a buyer's agent, I provide a layer of protection for you. For one, because I want to get paid. That gives me reason to give as good of advice and education and explanation to the buyers as possible. I don't want to go through I don't want to have any legal issues. I want to explain the contract up front. I want to help hold everybody accountable the same way your agent is helping the other parties to be held accountable. I do all these things to help, not to take advantage of you. Now, as a buyer's agent, I'm representing their best interest. Both parties having their best interest represented brings fairness. That's the whole goal. The whole goal is fairness. It's not to save money or to make as much money for myself as an agent. I want everything to be fair. I hope you get as much as you can. I hope the buyer receives a house that they would love to call home and feel good about the money that they spend, right? I want these things to work well together. If you decide, hey, I just want to try to get as much money as I can, you open yourself up to more potential issues. The same lawsuit that they're putting against NAR, I can see somebody turning around and saying, hey, you're doing the same thing to me as the buyer. I'm getting the short end of the stick. All of these things spell potential loss for you. I'm not trying to scare you, okay? As always, you could always do whatever you decided. You could put the house on the market yourself. You could do for sale by owner. I've represented buyers where hey, I'm put it for sale by owner. I help them buy a house that the owner has no representation, right? If they decide to do it, they can do it. I think that you should consider, these are just considerations of the potential ramifications of doing so. I'm not trying to save myself as an agent. I'm not trying to. I think this is a good time for us, as I heard a guy say, this is a great time for us to have the conversation about what an agent does. You know, I need to be able to explain what it is that I do and the reason why you're paying me this amount of money. I need to be explained. I need to be able to explain those things and have these conversations and talk about it so that everybody is clear and nobody feels like they're getting duped. You shouldn't be feeling like you're duped as a seller, and we don't want the buyer side to feel like that either. We want a fair transaction so that we have a meeting of the minds and everybody walks away as happy as possible. All right, so that's part one. I know that was kind of long, but I do have a ton of thoughts on this. I'm going to come back again with a part two, talking to buyers, and then I'm also going to speak to what I believe it means for us as agents moving forward. So I hope you enjoy that. If you do have more questions about it, have more thoughts, you want to talk this over, I'd be glad to talk with you. Go to the link in the bio and send me a message. You can find my telephone number. It's pretty easy to find in the bio in that link, or send me a personal message here, and that would be great as well. If you'd like to comment below with your thoughts, please feel free. I will try my best to comment back. If it's something long, then I'll probably will make another video or something like that. If you have potential questions, please put them in the comments as well. I would like to see what is going on in your mind as a consumer or as an agent, so that we can talk about this and hopefully come to a great conclusion. All right, we're going to see what happens. Thank y'all very much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.